Welcome back, everybody. Revenue Problem Solvers podcast, where we try to crack the code on growing your business by tackling the revenue challenges that keep leaders up at night. I'm Carl Ortmans, and on today's episode, buckle up. We're going to dive into the topic of the shift in buying modality. More to come. Now, today's podcast is sponsored by Virtual Causeway. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Your website traffic, it's down. Your leads likely have dried up. Traditional demand gen, yeah, it's dead. AI has changed everything. People are now learning about you and your company through LLMs, and you'd never know it. Virtual Causeway helps you flip the script. They don't just chase leads, they create conversations with pre-qualified buyers who are ready to talk. You need to break into a new vertical, fill event seats, book quality meetings. They become your team's extension. Check them out at virtualcauseway.com and mention the show for a special rate. Now, my guest today is Dave Boyce. So Dave is one of the voices who are shaping how SaaS companies go to market in this modern era. If you're not familiar with Dave, Dave is a seasoned entrepreneur. He's a board member, he's an advisor, and he's a teacher. And I'm not kidding. He's a professor, actually. He's helped build and sell 5 SaaS companies, including companies such as Profit Logic, Fundly, Zenprint, and InsideSales.com. He's helped guide revenue teams through market disruption. He's an expert in product-led growth. Throughout his career, he's delivered over $100 million of value through exits and strategic expansions. And today, he's helping companies reimagine how they grow and scale in a world where customers demand more than ever. Today, he serves on the board of Forrester, and he teaches product-led growth and go-to-market strategy at BYU's Marriott School of Business, on top of being the executive chairman at Winning by Design. Dave, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here.
You're making me feel tired, Carl.
What do you mean?
That's just a lot of stuff. I'm like, but I do it out of pure passion. So I guess if it gives you energy, then it doesn't make you tired, right?
Heck yeah. I mean, and it's amazing because it's not only the things you're doing, but there's experience that comes along with it. And the number of things you do, because I would be willing to bet if you didn't enjoy the teaching, you wouldn't do it. If you didn't enjoy being a board member, you wouldn't do it. You'd probably be doing something like spending more time at the hills with your skis.
There you go. Sometimes when people ask me what are you doing with your life right now? I do indeed say, Carl, I have the privilege of working on only things that I like, that really give me energy and that fuel my passion. So
I think that's
how lucky are we?
Yeah, I think that's the thing you get. Everybody's trying to do, right? Like, if you truly love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
So that keeps coming back to us. So
I guess let's have some fun then.
Yeah. So if we can kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about, or give us a little bit of context about your world? So what industries or verticals do you work in? Like, what are your selling motions? What size companies do you typically work with?
Yeah. So at Winning by Design, where you mentioned I'm head of product and chairman of the board, our ICP is 50 million to 2 billion. So it's kind of that, it's post product market fit. It's probably post Series A, Series B. You're really trying to optimize and get to the next stage of growth, the next stage of growth, the next stage of growth. And it's really those stages where things can break if you haven't architected it well. If you're doing things kind of by accident or by kind of happy coincidence or by instinct or by anecdote, a lot of us can get a certain amount of the way there on that. But at a certain amount of scale, those things just don't cut it. It needs to be systematized. It needs to be architected. It needs to be engineered. And that's kind of where Winning by Design comes in and helps you, install a systematic approach to growth.
Yeah. It's an incredible system. If you haven't taken it, they have this revenue architecture bow tie model, and it's an entire course. Luckily, I've gone through it personally with the relationship with Pavilion. Going through the test, Dave, I got to tell you, there's a part where it took me multiple hours to try to solve something because as you go through all the conversion metrics, something didn't make sense to me. And even I'd reach out to our course instructor, and I'm like, all right, I didn't get this one right, but help me understand, how did I miss this? Like, what? But I took it serious because I was genuinely curious of how do you do these things? So if you're in that next phase, the bow tie model, you are going to learn so much. And if you have the ability to take the course, I highly suggest you do it.
Rock on, brother. I was the same. Like I've taken I've taken that course 3 times and a few of the other courses. And yeah, I'll go heads down. Like I want to understand this. I want to know that I can get through it and that that I can at least, it may never be kind of the thing that I do with, 8 out of my 8 hours a day, but
Yeah.
I want to know how it works. Cause if I'm going to run a system that's architected, I need to understand what's under the covers.
I totally agree with you. And it's fascinating too to understand a different way of thinking. And then when you consider the entire life cycle of that journey, because a lot of the models that I think we learn are your new business, and this is just getting to that dollar value, or you're just I'm saying this in light, but you're just on the customer success or account management
Right.
side, and you're only looking at it from separate. But somewhere, somebody, hello CFO, is looking at the whole thing. So how do you speak to them and how do you speak like them? And that's where that course truly helped me personally. And it's a fascinating way of thinking through the math for every single component and making sure that you can optimize the right things.
Rock on.
So, anyways, not to make it a commercial about the bow tie model. So how we got to today's topic is I asked Dave, I said, what's a successful revenue initiative you've ever led or an existing challenge you're solving today? Now, I will tell you, I had to laugh because his response was, I'll go with number two. And I was like, okay, what's number two? He goes, we need to talk about the buying modality from human led to self serve or a human assist. I'm like, okay, this is a shift. Okay. But I think that this is a fantastic topic because it seems like we've had such a major shift in the world. So if you go back to like the 2010 timeframe, enterprise companies were like, oh, what's this PLG thing? And now we're going to launch this PLG motion. So they had two completely different motions and they were trying to solve two completely different ends of the spectrum. And now we have this massive shift from a human led process to an AI led with a human assist model that's happening so fast. I don't know how else to start the conversation today, and hopefully you're okay with this. It's likely a big question, but how should we be thinking about the AI and human assist model today?
Yeah. It's so fast is a great way to talk about it. I was just with a group of growth stage investors last week, and their question on behalf of their portfolio companies is, how do we now think about fundraising? And
Oh,
I'm just connecting the dots. Like, oh my goodness, yeah. If I'm out fundraising right now, and the funds that I'm pitching are looking at company A, which got from $1 to $100 million in 12 quarters, and company B that got from $1 to $100 million in 8 quarters, and company C, there's only a couple of these that got from $1 to $100 million in 4 quarters. There aren't many of those. Lovable, like, set an amazing, high watermark, but we're watching Mistral and Anthropic and OpenAI and Replit, but they're not, they exist, right? These hyperscalers exist. So if I'm pitching an AI or a fund, and the fund is watching people in and around my space and they're outpacing me by however many times, it messes me up, right? It not only messes me up competitively, but it
mhm.
messes me up on a fundraising standpoint. It's a new high watermark. So what I got to do at that point is drop tools and look at what's happening over there. Like, I got to understand it. Like, I can't just dig in harder to the model that I understand and that I built. If a model over here is outpacing me by 3x, I really need to understand their model. I really need to understand it. And then if I can get anything from their model into my model, it's it's incumbent on me to do that. So I
Yeah.
think we're in a really interesting spot right now, Carl. I totally agree with your tee up.
Yeah, and even thinking about that, because there's a part where I'm thinking about like hardware companies who like, hey, if we have a software component to us, our valuation shifts. And how do we get that software as we start to go through and try to raise money? And now we're going through this funding raise. And there's a question that if I can ask it, and maybe it's so off topic, but I'm curious. So hopefully you're okay with it. When you're going to fundraise money today, are they also thinking about the revenue per head count and how many employees are actually on it as part of the valuation?
Totally.
Huh.
Totally. So now I've got a company with 300,000 revenue per head count, one with 475 revenue per head count, and I've got 225 revenue per head count. Like, again, I'm fighting an uphill battle. Like, and the only way that you get numbers like that is through automation. And some of that automation is coming via AI. So the basic headline is, and look, I actually don't really care about fundraising. Like,
Yeah.
let's say I'm a CEO of a scaling company. If I could fund based on my own cash flows, that would be my number one preference. Like, that's way safer. And those are way strong. Market signals from buyers are way stronger than market signals from investors.
Mm-hmm.
But in either case, I've got competitors who I might be able to learn from. I've got AI native companies doing stuff in a new way because everything is kind of upended right now, who I might be able to learn from. And if I don't need fundraising, let's forget about that for a second. All I need to do, you talked about buying modality at the top. All I need to do is meet my customers where they are. 70% of B2B buyers today are either millennials or Gen Zs. 70%. I'm not. So if I'm building my go-to-market in a way that makes me comfortable, I'm probably doing it wrong. If 70% of my buyers are millennials or Gen Z, they probably have a different set of expectations. They're probably getting their information from a different place. You talked about in your ad about discovery via LLM. That might be their modality. That's not my native modality. So I got to drop tools, figure that out, and go meet buyers where they are.
That is very well said. John Barrows was on, and we talked about AI and being, Iron Man is a good analogy, because Iron Man didn't become Iron Man until the suit and Jarvis came together, and now you're working both hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so when you start to think about the buying, like where they are and how do you get to them, when you go back and you say the buying process and how people are buying, if we go back to like the 2010, we were much more in that human to human touch. And then we went to the product led, and we saw an evolution there, and some really great stuff. And now we're sort of shifted a little bit on the other side, because like you said, there's this preference for tech first than human first. And I'm more comfortable with somebody just messaging me, and I'm not as comfortable maybe on the phone, or I don't really want to do a demo. How are you seeing that evolutionary shift between that entire process from those, I don't want to call them laggards, more traditional businesses moving into this new wave? Like, what are you seeing as that made the first thing that people should be thinking about?
Yeah. The first thing to be thinking about is the buyer. I know you're talking about process, but if I were to ask myself a question, the following question, like, how do I, Dave, or you, Carl, like, how do we, when we go to purchase something, like the platform that we're using right now to record,
Right.
how did I find out about that? How did I test it? How did I discover it? Did I buy that from a human? Did I schedule a demo? Did I, or was I able to just kind of fire up a test instance, launch an account, and then figure out if it was going to work for me, and then pick the plan that was right for me? Most B2B purchases now are happening on a self-service basis, most of them. And you think about all those companies I mentioned: OpenAI, Mistral, Anthropic, Lovable, Replit. If you have any of those paid plans, I guarantee that you didn't talk to a human to buy it. And you can get pretty high in an OpenAI kind of enterprise license without talking to a human. So that's all set up in a way to just kind of try before you buy, and then upgrade, and then try, and then upgrade. And it feels very much like PLG. That being said, we've now gotten way better than we were in 2010 at figuring out the right time to insert a human. So if I go buy OpenAI Enterprise, nobody's going to come sniffing around. No salesperson's going to come sniffing around me. But if I had the domain citigroup.com, you better believe they'd come sniffing around me. Like, as soon as I got to a certain tier of usage, someone's going to come in and say, hey, I see that you're accomplishing A, B, and C. That's very cool. Can we talk about your use cases? I'd love to understand it. And if there's any way that we can be helpful, we'd love to. Oh, how would you help? funny you should ask. I've got a forward deployed engineer. You're talking to me about this use case. We've done this elsewhere. I think we could build out this for you. So they have very sophisticated kind of human assist motions, even for these AI native companies, but they come later in the cycle, like after I've already achieved a certain amount of success. Then here comes the human. Then here comes the forward deployed engineer. And now I can open up kind of my usage pattern way bigger than I would have been able to do on my own.
So is it the usage pattern that changes, or is it the cost? Is there, or are they inherently linked for when the human should be involved versus the, like you said, I actually have never spoken to anybody from StreamYard.
Yeah.
Candidly, I did research, like, so I'm gonna fill in a little bit of blanks and we'll come back to it. But I did a little bit of research. I talked to people and they said, "Hey, yeah, I use this." And I actually was on an event. They used StreamYard. I thought there was some interesting things. So I had familiarity to it.
Yeah.
But you're right. I've never talked to anybody from StreamYard, and I really like what I'm using. I also but going back to the question, because I think there's a clue of the, like, even using the product led uh, way of thinking and the AI way of thinking. Because ultimately you're looking for it seems like you're saying is intent signals for a human to become involved and interject to start to highlight other areas that maybe they're not thinking. So I'll come back to what I asked earlier. Is it a cost? Is it usage, or are they
Yeah.
linked together?
Yeah. So I pay attention to two things, fit and readiness. Fit would mean I'm core ICP. So in my example, Citigroup.com got the salesperson's attention because Citigroup is in their core ICP. It's a big account. It's in my radar. It's in financial services. I don't know, whatever it is, core ICP. So that's fit. So in theory, Citigroup should be a great customer for me. I'm paying attention. Boom. But are they ready yet? Like, have they had enough time in the solution? Have they had enough success in the solution? Has it spread internally within Citigroup? I can program any of those triggers to know when readiness flips a switch. And then I have fitness and readiness. And now I'm going to show up and say, hey, how can I help? I'm not going to show up and say, what can I sell you? That would be tone deaf. Like, you're already my customer. But how can I help you is a very legit thing. And if I can come in adding value, I can help you discover a new set of features that you haven't been accessing. I can help you discover a new use case that might unlock some more value. Those are all very helpful conversations. So I think about fitness and readiness. And again, it doesn't have to be an AI native company, but thinking like an AI native company in that way is going to allow me to meet buyers where they naturally want to live, kind of like you did when you selected the StreamYard platform.
I probably should have sort of introduced this, because there are four buying modalities, right? Like, we have the methodical, we have the humanistic, we have the competitive, and we have the spontaneous. And for some, like spontaneous, like you said, like, hey, look, I don't know how to use AI. I'm going to use it. I'm going to just sign up for ChatGPT. That's a bit of a spontaneous.
Okay.
But what it's right, like, it sounds like, because it's impulse driven, you want to, you want to, get there, or it's either a simple solution or it's easy to buy. The other, the other thing with spontaneous is like, hey, get 75% off right now. Can I tell you I've done that before? I absolutely have. Then there's the competitive, right? Well, I want to get the best product for my advantage, for what I want to do, or I'm looking for an outcome or an achievement. The humanistic is like, I need the connection. I want stories. I want social proof. I want to understand, why people are buying. And then there's the methodical. Tell me what's going on. I need to look at data. It's going to take me a little bit longer to make a decision, but I'm going to be very thorough. And I also need to trust that the signals are correct. So we have four different modalities as buyers. And so I guess why I say that, from going through this, it seems like we're shifting. There's this interesting dynamic, and maybe this is where that humanistic side comes into blending this topic here, is like the AI and the human value, and how do we tie those two together and make sure that it's logical, but also you have this connection, because they're going to go somewhere else likely, and then you want to have a great experience so that they come back to you and say, hey, I'd like to buy your stuff again.
So I'm gonna give you a quote that hopefully will stick in your brain from a woman named Joanna Maciejewska. Joanna Maciejewska. She's a Polish fantasy fiction writer. So that has nothing to do with software. But here's what Joanna says. I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so I can do art and writing. I don't want AI to do my art and writing so I can do laundry and dishes. I think we all say, yeah, of course I want AI to do my laundry and dishes. That would be amazing. And of course I don't want it to take the fun stuff away from me. But then you think about our go-to-market and apply it to that. What's laundry and dishes? It's all the grunt work. It's filling out forms. It's filling in the CRM. It's handicapping my forecast. It's writing a quote. It is running a rote demo. It's all the stuff that I don't like doing. Whereas art and writing is the humanistic side that you're talking about. It's building trust, it's stakeholder management, it's managing risk, it's building out a strategic ROI case, it's helping me determine like a risk-adjusted kind of deployment case. That's a very human strategic interaction. So if I could then say, all right, well, where would AI be most useful? In that first category of stuff, the laundry and dishes category of stuff. Like if you find yourself, you're writing quotes all day, why couldn't AI take that over?
Right.
And by the way, how freaking annoying is that to the customer that they're waiting for you, the human, to like, pull data out of systems to get them a quote back? Why isn't that automated? Why can't I just kind of get the quote? Isn't that where the world is today? So we want to automate all the stuff that allows us to accelerate into our humanity. If I'm having a conversation with you that's human to human and it's strategic, that feels way better than if we're negotiating a discount or you're explaining something to me about a feature or compatibility. Like that stuff should just handle itself.
Agreed. And some of the pushback we've seen from sellers and people in a sales profession historically is like, it's too much admin work. I don't want to do the stuff. I would rather. I remember this one seller that I worked with, and he was like, I'm not attending any meetings that it's not customer facing. And so I asked him, I said, well, how many are you talking to customers for 8 hours a day? Well, no, I'm not. And it was interesting to hear his pushback on me, because it was like, well, in some like team meetings, you have to learn and you got to do these things. But I think there's now a shift. We're starting to see it, right? Look at all the stuff that we're seeing at a Gong, right? Like they're doing some amazing stuff on giving some of that information of what's happening when you really breaking down the profession of sales. But now there's call recorders, and there's there's software like Granola. If you're in back-to-back meetings, it'll actually surface, say, hey, by the way, these are the things you said, and these are the things you have to do. So I see the shift that's happening to allow us to become more, and maybe it's the way you said it is art. I have to become more art and science versus just the data. I need to be able to look at something, bring a point of view, and come back to it. And as you're starting to build all of your processes and that shift, is that something you're talking about? Is, like you said, meet the buyers where they're at, and are you aligning the process to the motion? And are you looking for those things that you said, hey, look, proposal, get that out, done? Like, is that how you're talking? Is that one of some of the conversations that are happening for you?
Yeah. So for winning by design, we talked about our ICP being 50 million to 2 billion. There are systematic ways to improve. I was just with a customer last week that's a $500 million in revenue. They have reps on the front lines who are taking 35 minutes to write a quote. Why? Because they got to log in over here. They got to see what you're eligible for. They got to log in over there. They got to figure out if you need this configuration or that configuration. They got to run it through something. I don't know all the details, but the CEO was literally telling me that he had done a ride along, and he was watching reps 35 minutes to write a quote. And if it was an existing customer, even harder, because then they've got to think about what are the legacy terms and what are the currently available promotions, and are those eligible for our existing customers eligible or only new customers? So it's very confusing, and it takes 35 to 40 minutes. And many of those reps are saying, hey, I don't want to do this. Like your friend, I don't want to do this. I'm going to let my manager do this, and I'm going to get on my next call because that's what I'm good at. That's just grist in the gears, right? Let's just grinding my go-to-market engine to a halt. OpenAI is not doing that. That Mistral's not doing that. They have a well-tuned machine. So yes, Carl, when we're working with the customer, we're figuring out what is the appropriate go-to-market motion for the target customer, for the target ACV, annual contract value, and then how do we program that into a process, some steps of which will be performed by a machine, and some steps of which will be performed by a human. Once I have that all programmed in, then I can measure it, I can optimize it, I can test new things. I'm running the same play over and over. I'm going to change one thing, it makes it worse. Okay, don't do that. Change one thing, it makes it better. Cool, do more of that. And now we're in almost like a systems engineering mindset. But that's the person that's designing the machine and running the machine. For the person that's inside of the machine, the salesperson, or even the sales manager, what we've got to do is learn how to leverage those tools to help us get up into the human sphere. Like if I'm holding on for dear life to my right to write quotes, and because that's how I get personal value validation, is that I'm the very best quote writer in the company.
Right.
I'm just limiting myself. Let the machine write the quote and let me get up into an advisory role where I'm helping my customer expand their usage.
Have you ever heard this notion of the AI sandwich? Have you heard this before?
No, I want to hear it.
So it's human, AI, human.
Okay.
The human tells AI what to do, and then the human validates whether AI did it correctly.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
So what, and it as soon as somebody told that to me, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense, because it's exactly what we're doing. Hey, I would like to not do a thing. AI, go do it. And then being able to review something is much different than sitting down, like you said. Like if it takes 35 minutes to write a proposal, there's been some places I've had where it's like 100-page proposal, because it's so much schematics that come into play, and what are the inputs, the outputs, and a business case, and it's a whole thing. I mean, you look at RFPs as a great example.
Yeah,
RFPs,
great example.
Some companies don't want to do it because it's so much work.
Yeah.
And if you're not helping to write the RFP,
then you already lost it.
Yeah. But you want to be able to be part of the game and get your name involved.
Right.
And so now, and I think that's a really great use case, and something that I've done in previous companies. We created a thing where you had an RFP, you dropped it in, and we used the technology that spit out and gave us basically 80% of the work was done, because that's where you're getting to.
Yeah.
And now you're just validating, like, oh yeah, that is actually how that is, or let me just tweak that a little bit.
Yeah, great example.
So I don't know if like I say, that AI sandwich of, I'm going to do the work. AI is going to take the work that I've done. I'm going to validate it. And now hopefully that 35-minute proposal took you 10, because you're going, is this correct? Is it formatted correctly? Is there spelling mistakes? Good. Check. I'm out the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Carl, you told me before we went live that you've been in a couple of PLG to enterprise organizations where, like, presumably a lot of the kind of the flywheel motion was already in place, and then you had to add the human motion on top. I think there's some parallels here.
I totally agree with you. And even your background with PLG and now going into the stuff you're doing I think it's fascinating. At some point, it doesn't make sense for human interaction if the cost of what you're purchasing isn't high enough. I remember going through Pavilion. I love Pavilion. And I went through the Chief Customer Officer School.
Okay.
And I'll tie it together, and hopefully you'll see the point. But I remember going through it and asking the question of, when you go to the board and you talk about churn numbers, what is the number that you're focused on? Oh, my light just dimmed. What is the number you're focused on? So especially with a product-led motion, do you separate the number from, hey, this is 100% product-led versus systems-led? And the response I kept getting was, you focus on the enterprise. like, but that's not answering my question. I want
Yeah.
to know whether or not are you including everything. So this is our world. For sake of discussion, we have a 90% renewal rate. But here's the problem. Our renewal rate is affected because our PLG motion, which the cost to buy the thing is $250, just as a
Yeah.
good example, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have a 90% churn rate after 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, does that get factored in, and how do you separate the numbers? And I didn't get an answer. I
Oh my
I
goodness.
pushed a few times, and it was challenging. So this is where the revenue architecture school was it was an eye opener for me, right? And so if you consider that, and I even use the example of Zoom. I'm like, look, I'm a Zoom customer. I've never once spoken to Zoom. If I, Carl, churn from Zoom, do you think they're going to care?
Mm.
I'm a quote unquote small fish. So
Right.
how do you look at the entire process? So anyways, so there, I think as you go through the product led, you have to consider like what's the tech touch and what is the value, right? Because when you include a human, there's a cost to it, and then you're going to think about, how do you service that customer? And I've even heard like or horror stories of like, hey, look, we had this $100 customer that we were consuming 40 to 50 hours every quarter just to support them. It doesn't make sense. And it's
Yep.
not that we don't want to, right? You want to find the best path. And I think you said it really well. Meet the buyer where they're at. I took a PLG motion. I took a PLG path. That's my path. I took a human approach because I'm buying Oracle. I don't know that there's many people that are going to buy Oracle database suite of products online using your credit card. I don't know that there's anybody. And if you are, tell me what credit card you have, because that's a different level of purchase.
Yeah, this is great. So you talked earlier about the bow tie, which is traditional sales and marketing funnel, wide at the top, narrow at the bottom, turned on its side. The narrowest part is where I make my initial commit. And then that's the beginning of the customer's journey. It might be the end of the salesperson's journey, but it's the beginning of the customer's journey, because then the customer is going to onboard and renew and expand, right?
Yeah.
So all of those experiences are going to help me kind of do more business as a customer with you as a vendor. So now that looks like a bow tie. Okay, cool. Now you think about, Carl, the PLG experience going through no touch, no touch acquisition, no touch activation, no touch monetization, no touch habit, engagement, renewal, expansion. That's the path I'm on. Amazing. Okay, cool. So can I make money on a $250 ACV? Yeah, because it was a no touch journey all the way through. I instrumented it that way all the way through. And then to your Oracle example, let's say that's a $500,000 purchase. I actually am going to be helping that customer build out the use case, helping that customer navigate their internal purchasing politics, helping that customer get through kind of final negotiations, vendor of record, information security, get to initial close. I'm probably going to have humans helping that customer onboard and retain and expand. And I'm still going to make money because it was a $500,000 purchase. Okay,
Right.
cool. So now I got two distinct things. Do I want to look at them as averages? Like, what's your average ACV? No. What's your average time to close? No. What's your average renewal rate, to your point? No, that doesn't help me at all. I can't solve any problems at averages. I can solve problems if I click into the PLG motion and optimize it versus other PLG motions or against itself. Similarly, I can click into that enterprise motion and just look at only that motion as compared to itself or compared to its peers. And that's where I'm going to solve problems. So that you can almost think about each of those as like a factory line.
Yeah.
This is a high-speed factory line. This is a lower speed, higher complexity factory line. They operate differently. I'm going to tune them differently.
That was one of the big ahas that I took away from the boat when I went through the course, right? The revenue architecture is consider what motion you're running and build the journey based on the motion.
There you go.
Don't do it all together. And that was such an aha for me of like, oh yeah, an SMB motion is going to be different than a mid-market, that's going to be different from an enterprise.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to try to kind of clump them all together because when you go to a board meeting, you're going to have it. But it's important to separate those out because you're going to be talking about different things. The terms might be different. And then when you get into an enterprise with an Oracle, hey, you're not going to make a decision for 1 year. You're going to do multiple years. But if you're going to do a product led, it's pretty common to see month to month versus, or even just, hey, I'll buy a quarter or an annual. So you're even the way that you exchange money is different too.
Yeah.
And so
So well said. Yeah, absolutely, Carl.
so coming back to sort of what we talked about is like that shift in the buyer modality.
Hmm.
When or maybe I'll ask you, are you seeing the shift into more of that humanistic because people actually want to have a conversation, or is the journey still preferenced on PLG? Is it a hybrid? Is it methodical? Is it competitive? Like, is it something else? Like, what
Yeah,
are you seeing?
I love it. So two things can be true. Um, one of those things is I'm buying more and more self-service, right? Have I bought a
Mm,
car without meeting the person? Yes. Have I bought a vacation without meeting a person? Yes. Have I spent $20,000 without meeting a person? Yes. In my personal life, have I bought enterprise or B2B products that are 20, 30,000, 50,000 without meeting a person? Also, yes. So that is true. We see from all these hyperscalers that can be true. Like this self-service is penetrating more and more.
mhm,
That being said, it's true for your company and also your competitor's company and also your other competitor's company. So that's table stakes now. That's table stakes. So now if I want to go make a big purchase that gets me out of my comfort zone, like or either technically or price tag wise, let's just pick a number, $50,000. Like, dude, I don't want to spend $50,000.
right.
Um, you support it with no touch. He supports it with no touch. She supports it with no touch. Will any of you talk to me? Because I really could use some help here. Now that can be a differentiator. Like I maybe I've worked my way in and demoed my way into your solution. I'm doing that with the platform right now,
Hmm,
and it feels pretty good. But before I pull the trigger on a pretty big price tag, I might want to talk to a human.
right.
She may not let me talk to a human. You may let me talk to a human, and you may be the one that just helped me get over that fear of messing up
Mhm,
and allow me to go make that commitment. Now these are all thresholds, right? Like
right.
for your market and your business, it could be at 100,000, it could be at 20,000, could be at 200,000. It could be that my buyers are very technical and they'll self-serve their way all the way to nirvana. And they never want to see a demo or talk to a human in their life. Okay, fine. But we just got to meet customers where they are. And I
Mm,
think that both things can be true. Automation is our friend, self-service is our friend until someone raises their hand, at which point humanization can be our differentiator.
mhm. I really like how you said that. The human can be your differentiator because at some point I am gonna have questions,
Yeah,
right? Like I think we all. Now the question is, do you have such an incredible knowledge base and ability for me to answer question even through your platform or on
sure.
a knowledge base where I can answer myself and I can do some self-serve? Because there are people that go, you know what? I don't want to ask Dave. Like, I'm not going to message Dave and be like, hey, Dave, how do I do this thing? I'm going to try to solve it myself because
Yeah,
then I know, right? Or go, hey, look, Dave, I now have to connect this to 9 different systems and I have no idea where to start.
yep,
Before I purchase, I'd like somebody to help me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I like that. I like how you said that. They can be they two things can be true, but they also can be differentiators for you as you start to go. So awesome. I know I'm just looked at the time like, oh, we've almost chatted for 40 minutes,
rock
which
on.
felt like it was super fast. And so maybe I'll ask you if just as we start to shift or to go to the wrap up.
Okay,
Everybody likes new, nobody likes different. And if you do both at the same time, it can either cause friction or uncertainty. For somebody who's thinking about what their buying process is and how do they shift to the new way, what are 2 or 3 actionable things that you say, "Hey, go do this on Monday to help your buyer achieve nirvana?"
okay. Well, the first thing I would do, Carl, is put yourself. This is a mental exercise, but you can also reinforce it with conversations. Put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. Like
Hmm,
literally, your buyer. You may have a persona name for your buyer. Maybe her name is Maria. Maybe she has a certain title, director, blah, blah, blah. Think about what she's up against when she is trying to make a decision in your market and just put yourself in her shoes. And if you can, go talk to 3 or 4 or 5 Marias and just understand kind of how they make these decisions. It will change your life. You'll be
hmm,
like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course you're not waiting for someone to cold call you. Of course you're not pining to schedule a demo with someone. Like, those are not natural things that a regular human would want to be. If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't want to do that either. So that's the first thing, is just put yourself in her shoes, map it out from her eyes, not from your eyes, from her eyes. And then everything's going to change. There was an old Harvard Business Review article called "Staple Yourself to an Invoice," and then follow yourself all the way through the process and see how hard or difficult it is to do business with your company. In this case, I'm going to staple myself to a purchasing decision, and I'm going to see how hard or easy it is to make a purchase from my company.
That is very well said, and it's perfect, because now, how many people? I'll ask you this way: how many people actually go to try to buy their own stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Secret shop yourself if you can. That would be amazing.
Right? And then the flip side is, when you go through it, even onboarding, like there's such a shit. Even product-led growth is an interesting one, right? Because where you start is not where you finish. And you evolve your product, you evolve your platform, you evolve your positioning, you evolve you evolve different things. So is your journey today where it needs to be, or is your journey still when you started? And have you
Mm,
evolved your journey? How do you make sure that you go back, even using that bow tie? Is each checkpoint improved or not? And if I'm
mm.
losing people, where do I improve them? And how do I improve it?
You're defining what it takes to tune a modern GTM system, Carl.
It's not easy. It's hard.
Yeah.
And going back and going and visit, like, I do love the staple yourself to an invoice. Going through, and even like the example you had, the CEOs doing a ride along. Like, I had this visualization of that CEO being so frustrated
Right.
watching it, because why am I wasting half of an hour for my highly expensive people to do something that I can offset and carry on?
There you
So
go.
anyways, this has been so much fun. Dave, where, if people want to continue to learn from you, or find you, where would you suggest that they reach out?
So here's a heartfelt invitation, Carl. And this is a brand new offer, and it costs $0. So hopefully you're listening now.
I've been
We have
listening from the moment we started.
Winning by Design has a new quarterly journal. It's called Growth. It's basically the Harvard Business Review for growth professionals. And all of the concepts that you and I are talking about are positioned each quarter in that journal from a research standpoint and from an interview standpoint. So real professionals applying real frameworks in the real modern world that's changing as we're going. There's only been one issue that was in October. The second issue is out in January. The digital version is at 100% free. So yeah, go to winningbydesign.com, sign up for the growth journal. I think you will thank me.
Well, I will add that to the show notes. Absolutely. Anywhere else you want people to be paying attention, or
Well,
send everybody to Winning by Design?
Winning by Design is great. You'll see other things there. You can join the Growth Institute. That's like a next level of education, like you were talking about the revenue architecture course. There's also a growth architecture course. There's also a bowtie analytics course. You can really, really, really go to school on how this stuff works as part of the Growth Institute. It's kind of an all-you-can-eat thing. And then I'd love to connect with you personally on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got a Substack, and we'll keep the conversation going there.
Amazing. It's been a lot of fun to get to know you. And Dave and I have never met before until today. And turns out he and I have some interesting parallels in the background.
Totally.
And all of this conversation is at a time where we're trying to figure out what's the best way to leverage AI in our processes. And even going into it, it's like, well, it's not a one size fits all. And I really like the thing you said: meet your buyers where they're at. You have different selling motions, you have different asks, you have different products, you have different buyers. And also consider the type of the buyer that you're working with, because like Dave said so eloquently, his buying style, how he likes to buy, is probably not the same as the people that are buying today, because 70% of B2B buyers are millennials or Gen Z. If you're not paying attention, you're going to be left behind. Dave, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carl. This has been a blast. I wish we had another 40 minutes. We'll do it again.
Well, absolutely. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast. Obviously, want to thank you, Dave, for sharing incredibly invaluable insights. You can hear there's some strategies you can put into action right away. Remember, success leaves clues, and every revenue problem has a solution. Sometimes you just need the right conversation to find it. Until next time, this is Carl with the Revenue Problem Solvers, helping turn obstacles into opportunities. Thank you for investing your time with us today. We'll see you on the next episode.